were taken late 30s, early 40s. And it was from these pictures that we meet people who made history come alive, like, here he comes, Minton Francis. Minton Francis, a fifth-generation Washingtonian, the longest and oldest living graduate of West Point. He was African-American. He was a Knight of Malta. Minton, to me, you're a living legend.
You may have a point. But what I was always taught is not to talk so much about myself. You see, I didn't do any more than what was expected of me. I had a family to raise. I had determination in my genes. After graduating from the nationally recognized, strictly segregated, all-black Paul Laurence Dunbar High School, class of 1940, I had two significant events occur. They occurred while I was a freshman at the University of Pennsylvania. That is before I went to West Point. Because I spent my first 17 summers of my life on the Chesapeake Bay living in my grandfather's house, I became an excellent swimmer and oarsman. At Penn, in the pre-World War II days, Sigma Chi fraternity adopted a hard and fast but unpublished rule that to the extent possible, members of the varsity team would be rushed. Well, I made the varsity crew. As a result, one day I got a note to come to the Sigma Chi house. Well, I went to the Sigma Chi house, presented my note, and wasn't then inside, then was asked to leave. The frat brother, answering the door, said, "There must have been some terrible mistake." I understood and I left. I was soon headed to West Point. And soon after admission, there was a swimming class to see who would need further swimming instruction and who would make the swim team. Well, I won the first heat, and I won the last heat. But when the names were called for those who had qualified for the swim team, my name was not called. Eventually, my name was called. He said, "Hey, black man over there, come here." In those days, to be called a black man was a pejorative. I told him what to do and I left, never to swim. For the point. Glebe hazing is a part of the tradition at West Point, but was strictly forbidden under any circumstances that would cause mental or physical harm to the plebe involved. I was hazed so hard by a sophomore during my plebe summer camp that the guy was turned back by the superintendent of the academy and made to join the class and made to join my class in the following year. This was his punishment. Anyway, I went on to become the 8th African-American to graduate from West Point and the first African-American commissioned in the regular Army Field Artillery. I could recount any number of other incidents about coming of age in the segregated United States and the segregated Army, but we all wanted to serve our country. There were just a number of social things that needed to be worked out. This is probably why I'm sharing my story now. Work still has to be done. I tried to help those who went before me as well as those that came after me. You need to know the story of the first African American to graduate from West Point. His name, Henry Ocean Flipper, graduated in 1877. Briefly, given the segregation policies in effect at the time, Lieutenant Flipper would have had no place to serve if the black regiments in the West had not existed. Flipper was assigned to the 10th Cavalry, but despite 4 years of successful service, he found himself under attack by his fellow officers and was discharged in 1881 for conduct unbecoming of an officer. Though rejected by the military, Flipper found his engineering skills in demand. He worked as a civil engineer, translated Spanish land documents, and helped to build a railroad in Alaska. Throughout his civilian career, he built a reputation on professionalism and incorruptibility. But he never overcame the stigma of the unproven charge of embezzling public funds early in his military career. But in December 1976, the Army, at the behest of the first black graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy, Commander Wesley A. Brown, and the historian Ray O. McCall, reviewed the circumstances surrounding Flipper's discharge and issued an honorable discharge in his name. In 1977, through my efforts while serving as the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense, the U.S. Military Academy dedicated a memorial bust and alcove in the Cadet Library in honor of Lieutenant Flipper on the 100th anniversary of his graduation.
Minton, it's an honor to know you. Never heard of you before, we probably should have. We've been sharing these experiences years ago, but it's never too late.